Hello everyone, it's Lady Shadana. Thanks for coming to hang out with me on my building adventures. This is the first episode where we're actually gonna maybe make some changes and some updates and some little tweaks to various things in Cavern. I figured we'd kind of just go down the line and see what needs some updates. I do have a couple of things that I've got notes that I needed to make some changes to, and I thought you might like to join me to see how I do it. So let's do some things. And that was silly, wasn't it? I am at the very far end of where all of my builds are, and I've shown you this before. There's so many builds. I have so much stuff. And this is where the supply camp and ship is with the builder's hut in it. So this is pretty new. It has all of the updates, and I don't think there was anything really in here that needed any update. So let's work our way down. Now, one of the things that I did really want to change. So this is the MegaHall, the storage hall. And I found just while I was doing my builds in the Let's Play series that all of this, like the stripped warped and like the warp stems and things like that, you end up with so much of the warped blocks for when you're getting the warped actual wood stems, that it actually would be better for us to use the wart blocks, because you just get so much of it, and I think it will look just as nice. So we're going to switch out all of this stripped warped stem to the wart blocks here, and I think it's going to make everybody who builds this very, very happy. So there's a couple of different ways that we could go about doing this. So there's quite a bit here. Now I could go in and I could break and change every single one of these blocks, and then just hope that I don't miss any, and that would be one way that I could go in to make those changes. The other way that I could go and make those changes is what we builders usually do, and that's by using our scan tool. So what we do is we select both the bottom and the top opposite corners of the build, or wherever it is we want to make the changes. So we left click and then we right click and then we click in the air, and we take a look at the resources that are in the space, and you can see that it outlines it with a white line showing you what space you have selected. And so we take a look at those resources and we just go down until we find the block that we want to change. And so we're looking for that stripped warp stem, and we're going to, so you can remove it. So you could take things out entirely, or you can replace it. So I'm going to replace it, and I'm going to replace it with the warped wart block. So I'm going to select, and I'm going to be changing 100% of it, and I'm going to click the check mark, and I'm going to X out of there, and that's it. That's super magical. It goes ahead and it changes all of those blocks, and honestly I think that looks just as nice as the stripped. I do love stripped. I love the look of stripped wood entirely, but I think this looks pretty nice. Now the other question is, do I want to keep the crimson stems, or do I want to maybe switch those out to maybe crimson the wart blocks? So let's take a look and see if we make that change, how we feel about it, because again, the same thing when you're picking up those warped stems, you're getting so many of the warp blocks. So we'll take a look. So the crimson, and it would be the, where is it? Maybe it's not actually called crimson. Oh, it's called nether wart block. That's why. So let's select that and change that out and see how we feel about it. Well, that's not sure how I feel about that. I think it might be a little too much of a sort of a split between the look of those two things. So we can go and there's actually an undo window that we didn't used to have. It's fairly new, and I can just undo the last change that I made, and it goes ahead and it switches it back to what was there before. And so looking at that, I think that looks pretty okay, but I'm almost wondering if it might be better utilizing a bit more of this deep slate instead of the crimson there. So this is how the process works. You just go through and you change stuff, and you change it to something else, and you move it around, and you make all these changes until you decide that you're happy with what you got. So let's maybe change it to let me think. I think the tiles might be a bit too much. I am a big fan of just the regular polished, and there we go. So switching that out to polished, I think I do kind of like that. So then you kind of look at it, and it's not as ostentatious as the other one was, but I don't know almost if this is this is what you do when you're a builder. you try it, and you change it, and you try it some more, and you come up with another idea, and then you pull out your architect's cutter because you love ornamentum blocks, and then you say, does this work with that? Now I can't actually remember if we changed it so we can use warp blocks, and we can, and that's awesome. So let's try some framed ones just to sort of blend this into that a bit more. And so now let's go ahead and we'll change those warped blocks to this new DO block, which the DO blocks are always going to be down at the bottom. It organizes that way so that we can find them. And so there it is. There's our framed warp block that we did. Now sometimes it doesn't pick it up the first time. You may have to click it a couple times if you do decide to do this on your own. But just make sure that that's there. And there we go. And that that kind of blends it in a bit more. And I think that looks pretty nice. So let's go ahead and try these two changes in the full hall and see how we feel about it. And so if I decide I don't like that, I'll just go and I'll paste the existing one back in that space, which is really great, how I can actually make changes and try it out without really breaking anything. So it's not totally stuck that way when I make the change. So let's try that. Let's make the changes of the two blocks and then see how we feel about it with it all put together and with the courier statues in there. So we changed the let's get in here. We changed and you can do a search and you can find the item there, or you can do that. So we changed the stripped warp stems to that framed wart block right there. And so there we go. We'll change those. And then we changed the crimson ones, the crimson stems. We changed that to the polished deep slate. And right there. So let's see how we feel about that with everything in place. So we still have all these guys being all fancy schmancy. We still have all the leaves bringing in everything, and then when we come in here, it still has the panels and everything on this side. And I think that looks pretty nice, I gotta be honest. And it reduces, because we have a lot of that crimson stem that's being used over here, but because it's the panels, it is you know, you're getting a lot of panels out of one stem. We're still using a lot of the Hi-Fi here, but we're reducing it by, that was like 96 of these panels and like 96 of these, like, you know, almost 100 of each of these panels. And I think it looks pretty nice, I gotta be honest. And we've made the materials requirements list of this much more economical by doing it. And it almost, like, I almost feel like it was too busy before with having these guys being all fancy and shiny and then having a lot coming in behind us here. So I like that. It's a big change. And so what will have to happen is when we put the update out, we'll need to tell people that if you're in the middle of, you know, so you generally, anytime you do an update to your Minecolonies, you should always make sure that you don't have any in-progress builds when you do that, or at least take a look and find out what buildings have maybe updated schematics, and just make sure you're not updating that building. So on this one, you would want to make sure that you're not midway through a warehouse build when you update your Minecolonies. Otherwise, I mean, it's not going to really, you know, worst case scenario, you just stop the build and you restart the build, and then it will pull out anything that you've put in there. The cool thing is that these items that we've switched out are not, they're not DO blocks. They are just straight stems, and so you'll still be able to utilize those in something else, because I use both of those things elsewhere. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm happy with the material requirements that's going to change up. So we've made those two changes there, and those are the two changes that I made in the base hall over here, and pretty happy with that. So now we just need to make sure that we update those on all the other levels. So this will be in level 4 and in level 3, and so let's go ahead and do that. So changing out that stripped warp stem, and that was the one that we switched out to the framed wart block. Yeah, see, if you see right there, it didn't actually pick up the right thing the first time. I had to click the select a couple of times to pull the right thing in. It's just a strange thing that the tool does every once in a while. So we made that change, and then we'll change out those crimson stems to the polished deep slate. And it's right there. Picked up the right one the first time. And it's more likely to do that thing where you have to click it multiple times with the DO blocks. So there's level 4 updated. Let's go ahead and update level 3, and clickety click, and down to the bottom. When you're doing this, it doesn't matter which corners you select in what order or anything like that, because you're going to be saving it a different way anyway. So same thing there. We're changing this one to this one right there. It did it again. There we go. And then changing this one to the polished deep slate. There it is. And done. So that's those levels. And then when we take a look at this next level down, which has so many placeholders, it's just utilizing the blocks that are in the base hall build. So that's like the oak and the spruce and stuff there. So there we go. So there are those blocks changed. Now, one thing you always want to do, sometimes when you change blocks, it will pop off lights and things like that. So we do want to go and take a look and make sure if there's any lights or anything we need to put back. So in this case, I believe it is just using whatever was in the hall previously with placeholders, and what I had before was what was in here, I think it was soul lanterns, but because they've popped off and disappeared, they're not here anymore. Because sometimes you'll see them floating around, so you'll take a look at if they're there. So sometimes when that happens, and I can't remember exactly what I had there, I'll actually pull up a copy of what the existing hut schematic looks like right now and remind myself what was there before. So in this case, it's going to be the craftsmanship storage, MegaHall Warehouse, and I want to look at the level 3 4, 5. So it did not actually have anything extra that it was putting in there, so it's still using whatever the base hut had. So level 5 had the lanterns. So that's where sometimes I'll remind myself what I did before, and then I'll X out of this and I'll just make sure that level 5 has those soul lanterns in place, and it still does. It wasn't affected by the changes of our blocks. So you always kind of want to do a little bit of housekeeping like that when you are making the big changes like that, to make sure that everything is still there. And that is, I think, all the changes we need to make to this particular hut. And you'll notice that there are these Dio Architects cutters all over the place. I'm not the only builder that does it. We just kind of tend to leave them all around because we're just constantly pulling up a new Dio block and seeing how we feel about it. So once I have whatever changes I need done in the hut, there's a couple of different things I can do. I can individually scan and save the schematics and send them over to our team to get put into the mod. And right now it's Motionless Train who is looking after all of that, and Train is an absolute beast, and he is amazing, and we're so happy that he looks after it for us. We're constantly sending files to him, and he is making sure everything is where it's supposed to be and then uploaded into the mod. So if you're ever like on our Discord or something and you see Train, just give him a wave and a thank you, because he does a lot of work for the team. So I have so from there, so as I said, I can either individually save and name and everything, all of these files, or I have, this is a, it's a single scan station where I have in here, in these fancy little command blocks, a series of instructions that says that we're going to scan from these coordinates and blocking it all out, and I'm going to give it this name, and then I'm going to save it into my folder, and then I'm going to send it over. So I have these where I can just save right there. You can see all 5 levels, and I'll just send them all 5 levels. Just to make sure that everything gets updated the way it needs to be. I also and so I do it this way because I can quickly scan it here, and then I can quickly take a look and make sure, and this is where all my saves go, and I can make sure that everything works, that it did actually save properly, and I didn't have any of the placements or anything like that incorrectly. So it would have gone into here, and it would be, where would it be? Where is it? The warehouse. And so I'll take a look at that level 5 and 4 and 3 and just make sure that everything is where it should be, and it is. And so I do it that way so I can just quickly test and make sure that I have everything the way it should be. And if I'm only doing one hut change. The other thing that I do have is that back at my main base for Cavern, I have something, and I don't think I actually showed you guys this yet. We have scan rooms, and scan rooms are magical. The current version of our scan rooms were created by Mubian and Motionless Train, I think, worked together on making it. And so this is my little base. This is every one of the of the build plots has a little sort of base spot where we have things like a button to take us to spawn, and I have lots of scan rooms. Everybody else has really just one. But because I had regular huts and alternative huts and mega halls, I split them to just make things easier for myself. So in this case, they're all connected outside, but it takes you into this scan area where clicking a button is going to scan. Though it's the same as what I had in the other area of the single scan station, or you can actually scan your entire set at the same time. So when we put new buildings in, we go and we make sure we've got all the coordinates and everything in here, so we can actually scan everything all at once, which is crazy. And then up here would be where all of the decorations and things like that are. So you can put whatever you want in here. And then I've got a little hallway here, and I have three sets of these all next to each other with all the different things in it. And then over here, this was when we were before we had the UI change. So I was actually maintaining 2 complete sets for a while because the old setup didn't the naming, the way we named things was different. So through this door is how it used to be, but we don't go there anymore. But I didn't get rid of it because, you know, it's history. It's like a museum. Yeah, so it's still there. Hello. Okay, you stay here. This is the past. We don't dwell on the past. But anyway, so yeah, so this is where I would come if I was scanning. Like, say if I did changes to a whole bunch of things, and then I went and I just scanned everything all at once. I could certainly do it all here. So that's the scan room. It's, like I said, it's really very cool. And as we get new huts that come into the mod, we've got room to be able to add more huts here. And then we have fun little things like a little ender chests with all our, you know, bits and pieces that we kind of want to carry around with us. And I got Raycom's head. So Ray is, you know, he's the guy. And so when we do when we do builder streams and stuff on Twitch, sometimes everybody will put on Ray's head, and it's very amusing. So that's the process that I go through when I am making changes to a hut, and those were some pretty big ones, where I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do and then kind of changed my mind. And so the process of switching things around and trying things out, and a big thing it really is, especially in a style like mine, which uses so much materials, is trying to think about how much materials you're using. So when I built it originally, obviously I forgot to check myself on that part and make sure that that I wasn't making people crazy with how much materials I was putting into a build in that case. Now, part of it is that I haven't played in a survival situation in quite some time, and I didn't realize that you get so much warp blocks in comparison to anything else. So you know, it was with doing the Let's Play that I learned some lessons, and a lot of us builders do find that is the case, that if we go and actually eventually play our styles in that survival world, we will come back and make changes. I know that that John Fall is doing the same thing with the jungle style. He's been playing in a survival situation, and he is also going and making changes to the style as he does that. So I hope that you guys like the change that I've made here today, and I'll be sending that off to train to get put into the mod. So it'll probably be, it's usually within a week or so that it goes into the live version, and then everybody will be able to have that and make those changes and be much happier when you do upgrades to your warehouse. So I think that's gonna about do it for today. That was a big one, and I showed you some cool stuff, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic day, and that we see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye!